Hello, I'm Julia. I'm part of the 9 o'clock Zoom online church, and I'm also part of the Eco Church group.
Hi, I'm Lucy. I'm also part of the 9 a.m. Sunday Zoom church and part of the Eco Church group.
What we'd like to do today is talk to you a little bit about Fairtrade. You may be aware that the Fairtrade Fortnight starts this year on February the 21st and runs until about March the 7th, I think, this time. And we are concerned that we raise the profile of Fairtrade because in the church and in the cafe we are very conscious of the fact that it helps bring equality for farmers. So we're going to talk a little bit about what Fairtrade means and how it impacts the people who are involved in it. So Lucy, first of all, can you explain what Fairtrade is?
Fair trade is a simple way of fighting against the unfairness that keeps millions of farmers in poverty. However hard they work, they don't get paid a fair amount.
So for a farmer involved in Fairtrade, what sort of standards might they be expected to do and how do the companies get involved?
It means that the worker has rights and they get a safer working environment, they get fairer pay and conditions, and overall, as us as shoppers or consumers, we get a higher quality, ethically produced product.
And am I right in assuming that these farmers that we're talking about aren't just the men in the communities, because most of these communities are in the developing world? So what happens to the women and children involved?
Yeah, the women are heavily involved, and 49% of women who are part of the Fairtrade certification, they get looked after, they get rights, they get to invest in their children's futures, they're empowered, they get to invest back into their own communities, and they feel worthwhile and they feel worthy, and they're getting a fair price for the goods that they produce.
One of the things that struck me about fair trade is the impact it has on children. Because in the developing world, a lot of families are heavily reliant on their children's work. And the children are sent into the fields. One of the worst things, I think, is the cocoa trade, which helps produce chocolate. And children as young as 7 and 8 are sent into the field with machetes and axes and large knives to start cutting down the cocoa pods, which their families desperately need to sell. And they don't manage to get to school, so they don't get an education, so it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. My understanding is that with fair trade, it enables the farmers to send their children to school because the price they're getting for the cocoa is much better than having to rely on the children's labour. So the children actually have a better chance of getting out of that as they get older. And for me, that's a really important part, because I think exploiting children is, wrong on so many levels.
That's right.
What about then what they are actually producing? What does fair trade goods actually look like? How do you know that something's fair trade?
Well, they have their own little sign on things. This is the fair trade sign. Fair trade goods are all sorts of things. There's 6,000 different products that are marked with fair trade markings. A lot of them we see in supermarkets, budget supermarkets, as well as your big 5 supermarkets. There's things like wine, chocolate, bananas. There's lots of places sell fair trade bananas, and flowers. Sugar. You can get all these things that are fair trade, and the farmers are getting the best price for their goods. And not only that, the products don't really cost any more than your average chocolate bar or your average banana. Just because it's got the fair trade sticker on it, it means it's actually getting to the people that are growing the core product from the start.
I must admit, I was quite surprised when I went to the supermarket to find the range of fair trade products that there were. I'm a big coffee drinker, as anybody who knows me will know, and there were several coffees I could pick from, not just sort of what's the instant, but there was also the pods that you can put into those machines, there's ground coffee, and different strengths. I like a strong coffee, but there's different strengths of coffee. So if you're thinking, well, if I buy something and I don't like it, it's only the same as anything else. Don't buy that product again if you don't like it, but find another one that's fair trade marked that actually appeals to your taste buds a little bit more. I know I was particularly delighted to find this Turkish Delight chocolate, because I've never seen this before, and Turkish Delight is a favourite of my husband's. I would be taking it home for him to try the fair trade goods in the same way that I would be eating the plain. So it's got a whole range of things that actually can offer. Fair trade flowers, we are being asked. I do have a number of postcards that we're asked to take to florists and encourage not just the supermarkets but also local florists to try and look at buying some fair trade flowers, because again it's got a massive impact on the growers. 51% of the florists that grow for fair trade are women. So what we were talking about earlier about the impact on women and their lives, buying flowers from a fair trade stockist actually will make a positive impact on them. Is there anything else then, Lucy, that you feel that we ought to know about fair trade?
I think with fair trade we can change the world a little bit every day, and through simple shopping choices that we're making, we can help to make a more equal world. And all this is part of our discipleship journey, isn't it? Because our Lord is a God of justice, and
He's also the God of creation, and the fact that fair trade encourages people to look after their environment where they're growing things for us, that's a godly thing to do, to make sure that we are taking what care we can of creation. Clearly we can't be in all these places where these goods are produced, but we can be respectful about the trust that God has placed on us to make sure that we care for the people who are doing it.
So when we go into the shop and we buy something that is fair trade, we are making very much a Jesus decision, because we are caring for our neighbours in much poorer countries who are suffering the effects of social injustice, climate change, lots of child labour, lots of different things. So yeah, we're doing something really biblical by choosing to walk the path of life with Jesus and fair trade.
Fair trade isn't itself a Christian organisation, but it has Christian principles that underpin some of the things that they're doing, so that we are encouraged to support those who are supporting the most needy in society. I'd like to think that, you know, if Christ came back, he would be encouraging us as well to choose fair trade goods, because it demonstrates that we care about people that we may never meet, but that doesn't mean to say that we should love them any less. One of the things as well at the moment, and from the post behind us you might not be able to see it, but Lucy has a leaflet there as well about fair trade. One of the things that they're very keen on improving at the moment is climate justice. Now the Lent book for the Archbishop of Canterbury this year is about justice, and as fair trade participants, by doing this you also help equalise the world in terms of the climate. It's not just about what we grow, because certainly many growers are living in environments which are more at risk than we are from the effects of the climate changes. So again, it's not just about buying the goods, it's about thinking what you can do to improve things in terms of your climate impact, because all of these are being done in ways which reduce the impact of the environment on the environment of climate change. If there was one key thing that you could finish off with, Lucy, what would you say to people about fair trade?
I would say have a look and give it a go. Compare it with your other products, because you will see it is no more expensive, and it's just a really good thing to do for other people, and of course for the environment as well. You know, it impacts the environment because the people growing are learning more about how to care for the environment, that they're actually living in now as climate change brings changes to their environment now. So it's helping them to keep kind of the earth fertile and rivers flowing, and just to make life better really for some very poor people who will work very hard.
Indeed. We will have a stall in Christchurch Cafe for the next 2 weeks with some of the goods on, so you can actually have a look at it and sort of compare what it is with what you'd normally get. There'll also be a number of leaflets that you can be very welcome to pick up. We have stickers to show that you've been to the Fairtrade stall, and gives you a conversation starter with other people in your family or your community. So please do drop by Christchurch Cafe. They also serve Fairtrade tea and coffee, so try some while you're there. Have a look at the stall and think about what you can do in a small way which will actually improve the lives of many people. Thank you.
Thank you.